All right, hey guys, welcome to 7.2, percents and proportions. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, we're going to be figuring things out like, well, okay, what percent of 7 is 2? What percent of 140 is 1? What percent, of 60 is 25? Stuff like that. And then we're going to have a bunch of different application problems that are going to help us realize that this stuff is actually kind of important. So the first thing that we need to cover is kind of like a basic foundational thing about solving percent problems, okay? We're actually going to write a proportion, okay? Hence, why we're solving, percents and proportions. How do proportions have anything to do with percents? Well, this is the proportion we're going to be dealing with today. A over B equals P over 100, okay? Well, what is A? Well, A is going to be the part, okay? B is going to be the base. We also can call it the whole. Okay, P, that's going to be the percent. So this is just an example. 5%, okay? 100 is going to stay 100, okay? So how can we use something like this? Well, what if we're asked to do this? Okay, figure out what percent of 7 is 4, okay? What percent of 7 is 4? Okay, so what we need to recognize is when we see things like this, when I see of a number, whatever that number is that comes right after the of is always going to be our base. Okay, so when you go back here and look at this kind of definition of the percent proportion, you can say in parentheses the number after the word of. Okay. So, given that it's a number after the word of, I can kind of start to fill in my proportion. Okay, again, it's A over B equals P over 100. So A is the part. And we just figured out what the base is. So let's do the base first. Of 7, so it's going to be 7. Is 4, okay, is 4 indicates that 4 is the part. And that's going to be equal to something over 100. Okay, we're always going to keep that 100. Well, what's that something? Well, I don't know. It's actually what we're solving for, the P. Okay, what percent? And that's why P is the unknown. So how can we solve something like this? Well, can I mental math it? It is a proportion. How do I go from 7 to 100? Well, I actually don't know that quite off the top of my head, so I can't really mental math. So let's go ahead and butterfly, right? Let's take 4 times 100, get 400, equals 7 times P, or 7p. Lastly, we're just going to, well, divide by 7 and divide by 7. P is going to equal, you get 57.142, so let's just say 57.1. Okay, and what's our label? Well, when we're solving for P, okay, it came from the top of that fraction. We're still solving for it down here. It's actually talking about a percent, so I'm going to put on a percent sign there. And that makes sense, right? I mean, what percent of 7 is 4? Well, 4 is a little more than half of 7. 57%, 57.1% is a little more than 57%. So it makes sense. So why don't you guys take a second and figure this one out. Tell me what percent of 72 is 54. Take a minute, pause the video, try that one in your notebook there, then play the video and see if you got it correct. Okay, well, I remember the percent proportion is part over the base is P over 100. And what's the part? Well, what percent of 72 is 54? So 54 is 54 is going to be my part. Okay. Of 72 indicates that 72 is going to be my base. And that's equal to P over 100. I don't know what P is. It's the percent. I'm solving for it. So can I mental math it? Can I say, well, how do I get from 72 to 100? I wouldn't recommend it. So let's go ahead and butterfly. But before we butterfly, we can do something. And that is what? We can simplify here. And what can I simplify this to? Well, you're going to need to kind of do a little bit of trial and error. But I know that I can actually divide both of them by 18. 54 divided by 18 would give me 3. 72 divided by 18 would give me, what? 4. Okay, so now I'm rewriting as 3 over 4 equals P over 100. Now, I can butterfly, right? But now that I've simplified, I can do a little mental math because I can say, how do I get from 4 to 100? Well, times 25. So what do I do to 3? Times 25. And 3 times 25 is going to equal what? Well, P is going to equal 75. And remember, when we're solving for P, we are automatically going to go ahead and slap the 75% on. Okay, so you could leave that as your answer, or you could rewrite as 54 over 72 equals 75 over 100. And if you put the 75 back into the proportion, you would then drop the percent sign. All right, so before, what we just did was finding a percent, right? We solved for P. But now we're going to find a part. Okay, so I give us this little example. What number is 24% of 200? There's some number out there, and it is 24% of 200. So it's almost a quarter of 200, almost 25%, but it's 24. How can we find that? Let's always write the percent proportion. A over B, which again is part over whole, is equal P over 100. Okay, so let's fill in some things. Well, what number is 24% of 200? When we see of something, we need to think base. So it's going to have something equals something over 100. The base over here is going to be 200. What's my part? Well, what number? What number is 24% of 200? I don't know that little number. I don't know the part, so I'm going to leave it as A. Equals, well, let's see, what number is 24%? So I'm going to enter in just a 24 over 100. Now, do I only have one variable left to solve for? I do. So I can solve either with butterflying, and simplifying first and butterflying, or I can do some mental math. How do I get from 100 to 200? Times 2, right? So how do I get from 20, what do I do to 24? Times 2. A equals 24 times 2, 48. Why don't you guys try this one? Go ahead and figure out what number is 18% of 50. Pause the video, try it, play it when you're done, and let's see what you get. All right, well, hopefully you set up the percent proportion. A over B equals P over 100. A is the part, B is the base, okay? And what number is 18%? I don't know the part, but I do know the base of 50 equals P is a percent, and we know the percent, it's 18, over, well, it's always over 100. So butterfly, simplify, mental math. I'd probably go mental math. 50, or I'm sorry, I got to go the other way. 100 divided by what gets me 50? Divided by 2. So 18 divided by 2 gets me what? 9. A equals 9. And there you go. That's the part. What we could say is that 9 is 18% of 50. Okay? All right, so the last thing we're going to learn about is finding a base. Okay, right there. And in heptathlon, okay, heptathlon, an athlete earns points in 7 track and field events, hence heptathlon, okay? Let's say that this athlete earned 836 points in the long jump. Maybe he didn't earn anything in the hurdles, I don't know. And the long jump score makes up 16% of the total score. So what is the total score? Well, how can we figure that out? Well, again, it's all about the percent proportion. A over B equals P over 100. A stands for what? The part. Do we know the part in this case? Well, say in this he earned 836 points in the long jump. Okay, so he earned 836 points, but that was in just one little category out of a lot. Okay, so the part is actually going to be 836 divided by, well, what is his total score? We know the part, but we don't know the total, so I'm going to leave that as B. And that's going to equal P over 100. Well, what's P? Do we know the percent? Yeah, 16% over 100. Okay, so can I solve for this? Well, yeah. Can I use mental math? 16 to 836. I don't know if I want to try that necessarily, but I can butterfly, and before I butterfly, I can simplify here, okay? So if I divide both of these by 4, I'm going to get, well, 16 divided by 4 is 4 over 25. And, we can go ahead and butterfly if we want. 836 times 25 is going to get you 20,900 is equal to b times 4, or just 4b. So then what I can do is just say, oh, got to get b by itself. Let's divide by 4 and divide by 4. 20,900 divided by 4 actually gets you 5,000. That cancels. 5,225. Okay, so what does that mean? B equals 5,225 in this case. Well, it means that, remember that long jump score just made up 16% of the total score, so we were solving for the total score. So the total score is 5,225, and 836 of those points came from the long jump. Okay, that's all we have for this video, guys. If you didn't kind of understand it really, go back and watch it one more time, or maybe just the little parts you didn't understand. Bring your notes to class, okay? We're going to talk about this video and work through some more problems to help kind of make sure this is all solid. All right, I'll see you in class.